So this is the April session, lessons 7 and 8, which include Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, 8th chapter, which is questions by Maharaj Pariksit, texts 1 through 17. What happened is that you remember that there was Sukadev Goswami was explaining about the creation. And in order to refer to someone with knowledge and a proper reference, he talked about the conversation between Narada and his father, Lord Brahma, who's the actual creator of this universe. And that discussion went on for several chapters. It described about Mahavishnu, the expansion and description of various universes, millions and billions of them, and then the activities and development of each one of those with Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and the birth of Brahma in each universe, the description of the various elements that were manifested: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, and intelligence, false ego, within those universes, then the various bodies that are created to facilitate the conditioned souls. And then he also described how the Lord himself advents into each universe and performs different leelas. And he described the leela avatars. So at the end of chapter 7, which was all about these topics, now we go into chapter 8, where Maharaj Pariksit, his interest in various things peaked. He'll make a whole chapter of inquiries. And we can note that these inquiries that he's going to ask now set a foundation for Sukadev Goswami's answers that will last through several cantos. Although Pariksit will ask some more questions, the basic umbrella topics that he's inquiring about are the crux and the skeleton of a lot of Srimad Bhagavatam. So let us get into it. This is chapter 8, questions by King Pariksit. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 8, text 1. King Pariksit inquired from Sukadev Goswami, how did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devarshi Narada was directly instructed by Brahmaji, who was also directly instructed by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the instructions imparted by Narada to his various disciples are as good as those of the Supreme Lord. That is the way of understanding the Vedic knowledge. It comes down from the Lord by disciplic succession, and this transcendental knowledge is distributed to the world by this descending process. There is no chance, however, to receive the Vedic knowledge from mental speculators. Therefore, wherever Narada Muni goes, he represents himself as authorized by the Lord, and his appearance is as good as that of the Supreme Lord.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Oh, you're going on, Pati?
No, somebody else can.
Okay,
somebody else
Vaishnavi, why don't you continue, and then Karna.
Okay. Similarly, the disciplic succession, which strictly follows the transcendental instruction, is the bona fide chain of disciplic succession. And the test for such bona fide spiritual masters is that there should be no difference between the instruction of the Lord originally imparted to his devotee and that which is imparted by the authority in the line of disciplic succession. How Narada Muni distributed the transcendental knowledge of the Lord will be explained in later cantos. It will appear also that the Lord existed prior to material creation, and therefore his transcendental name, quality, etc., do not represent any material quality. Whenever, therefore, the Lord is described as aguna or without any quality, it does not mean he has no quality, but that he has no material quality. such as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance as the conditioned souls have. He is transcendental to all material conceptions, and thus he is described as aguna.
This
Thank
last paragraph is a point that Srila Prabhupada often points out because it's so important. In Sanskrit, there are basically two words that mean the same thing: aguna, as in this purport, or nirguna, guna, nir guna, without qualities. So when common people come in contact with Sanskrit and hear these verses, hear these words, these adjectives describing the Supreme Lord without qualities, then the common sense definition of that is that he has no qualities in the ultimate issue. And thus they believe that in the ultimate issue, after everything, you come to the final aspect of the absolute truth, is that it has no form, it has no qualities. It's nirguna, it's aguna. But Srila Prabhupada's constantly pointing out that the actual meaning is that he doesn't have any material qualities, that he's transcendental to material qualities and therefore doesn't have material qualities, is the actual point. And it's an important one because, practically speaking, any school of thought you come across in Vedic wisdom that's been brought to the West or even in India, most of the people think that in the ultimate issue, the supreme absolute is nirguna, without any qualities, and therefore has no personality.
What an odd conception. Karna, can you read? And then after Karna, Bhadra.
All right. The king said, I wish to know narrations concerning the Lord, who possesses wonderful potencies, are certainly auspicious for living beings in all planets. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narrations of the activities of the Supreme Lord, is auspicious for all living beings residing in every planet. One who takes it as belonging to a particular sect is certainly mistaken. Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly very dear scripture for all the devotees of the Lord, but it is auspicious even for non-devotees also, because it explains even the non-devotees hovering under the spell of material energy can be delivered from such clutches if they hear the narration of a Srimad Bhagavatam with devotion and attention from the right source, representing the Lord by disciplic succession. It's very dear to scripture, the devotees of the Lord, but it is auspicious for the non-devotees also. So
Thank you. Do you have something to say about that, Karna?
no, just that it's perfect for everyone, all nectar, all auspicious.
Because it's absolute, right? With something that's
Right,
absolute.
even people who are that they're being abducted to higher planets. I wonder if they would chant Hare Krishna to these abductors, if that would be auspicious for them too.
Well, maybe they're chanting up there. Who knows? Thank you.
Yeah.
Bhadra, do you want to continue reading?
Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Yeah. Text 3, done with everybody. Oh, greatly fortunate Sukha Goswami, please continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam so that I can place my mind upon the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, and being completely freed from material qualities, thus relinquish this body. Purport. To be fully engaged in hearing the transcendental narration described in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam means to constantly associate with the Supreme Soul, Sri Krishna, and to constantly associate with the Supreme Lord Krishna means to be liberated from the qualities of matter. Lord Krishna is like the sun and material contaminations like darkness. As the presence of the sun dissipates darkness, constant engagement in the association of the Lord Krishna frees one from the contamination of material qualities. Contamination by the material quality is the cause of repeated birth and death. And liberated from material qualities is transcendence. Maharaj Parikshit was now a realized soul by the secret of liberation through the grace of Shukdev Goswami, for the latter has informed the king that the highest perfection of life is to be in remembrance of Narayan at the end of life. Maharaj Parikshit was destined to give up his body at the end of 7 days, and thus he decided to continue remembering the Lord by his association with the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, and thus to quit his body in full consciousness of the presence of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Soul. Maharaj Parikshit had already given up all the connections with his kingdom and family, the most attractive features of materialism, but still he was conscious of his material body. He wanted to be free of such bondage also by the constant association of the Lord.
Want to give a little comment, please, Badru?
Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Andhakar, right? When the Krishna is the sun, and when the sun is there, then the Maya goes away. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, narration of Srimad Bhagavatam is like that it removes all the Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala Purana, which is on the transcendental platform. So everything, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, by discussing, then the modes of material nature which we have acquired will gradually remove, and we can come on the transcendental platform. That's what Parikshit Maharaj wants to do, because before he's going to leave, so he wants to become on the transcendental. By hearing, he wants to hear more and more, so that he can leave his body on the transcendental platform, go back home. That's what I can come up with. Anything else? More addition?
That was beautiful. Thank you, Bhajaji. Nanda, could you read next? And then Tisha. Nanda ji?
Coming, here I am.
Okay, so thank you.
Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifested in their hearts within a short time. Srila Prabhupada's purport: cheap devotees or materialistic devotees of the Lord are very much desirous to see the Lord personally without meeting the requisite qualifications. Such third-grade devotees should know well that material attachment and seeing the Lord face to face cannot go together. It is not such a mechanical process that the professional Bhagavatam reciters can do the job on behalf of the third-grade materialistic pseudo-devotee. I'm going to read that again. It is not such a mechanical process that the professional Bhagavatam reciters can do the job on behalf of the third-grade materialistic pseudo-devotee. The professional men are useless in this connection because they are neither self-realized nor interested in the liberation of the audience. They are simply interested in maintaining the material establishment of family attachment and earning some material benefits out of the profession. Maharaj Parikshit had no more than 7 days to live, but for others, Maharaj Parikshit personally recommends that one hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, nityam, always, by one's own effort and with serious devotion also. That will help one see Lord Sri Krishna manifested in one's heart within no time. The pseudo-devotee, however, is very anxious to see the Lord according to his whims, not making any serious effort to hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and without detachment from material benefit. That is not the way recommended by an authority like Maharaj Parikshit, who heard and benefited by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam.
I have a question for Nanda. What did that last, could you go back, Pati, to that thing, that the screen with the verse on it? So that last line in the first paragraph, that will help one to see the Lord Sri Krishna manifest in one's heart within no time. And you seem to relate to that. What was that you were relating to?
Well, it's a question of what you consider no time, or how quickly, what you consider quickly. Like, for example, I have to personally admit in front of all of you in cyberspace that I've been thinking, come on, I've been doing this for a while, and I feel like I've been making my effort for a while, and it doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere closer. But at the same time, I understand from what I've been reading and hearing over the years that, okay, so this little spot life of, 100 years at maximum, it's actually not a very long time, considering the length of time that we've been covering ourselves with dirt in the material world, covering our consciousness. So it is coming cleansed. It's just that we have a mountain of dirt, or I have a mountain of dirt on my eyes. So that's what I was thinking, because you can't help at some point, or I can't help at some point to feel a little impatient for real realizations, like really realizations, instead of hearing everybody else's realizations that I forget in 5 seconds after I've heard them. Sorry. That's where I'm at today. Sorry, folks.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Patti, you're muted.
One point here that we've also discussed, especially now, it's interesting that this topic came up today. I just read the headline today because there's so much COVID in India, is that the United States is making it so that Americans can't even fly directly there. So the ability to go to a holy place where Krishna performed his pastimes, which is one of the activities of so many Vaishnavas, has been stopped due to worldly circumstances. So the question arises, how can we transfer that experience into our own hearts in relationship to this verse? This verse says here, those who take the matter seriously will have the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna manifested in their hearts within a short time. We are constitutionally spiritual entities. So that spiritual consciousness is our nature, but it's been covered by our attachment to this material world, from the false ego all the way down to the earth, in all those different forms that we're reading about. So the point is making, Maharaj Parikit, is that by hearing, simply by hearing, then this process of reconnecting and maturing the spiritual individuality and the spiritual nature awakens. We all remember that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadyakabunoi Shravanada Sudha Chitte Korea Udoy, that it will naturally awaken. This is the process that Maharaj Parikit is requesting Sukadeva Goswami to continue doing this, so that this process will continue to awaken him.
Thank you. I just want to add one quick thing to that, because this is also, after following this process for several decades, we wonder, when is Krishna going to reveal himself somehow or another? But then certain things happen to give us faith. When Prabhupada says that hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam is actual direct association with Krishna. And then he also says, and Lord Chaitanya says, chanting Hare Krishna is direct association with Krishna. And serving the deity is direct association with Krishna. And taking prasadam is direct association with Krishna. So by following these things seriously and consciously, then that would be the short time. We have to actually believe that we're directly associating with Krishna. But it is a process. So now we'll have Tisha read, and then Preetam.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Tisha.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Verse 5. the sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, i.e. Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that a single pure devotee of the Lord can deliver all the fallen souls of the world. Thus, one who is actually in the confidence of a pure devotee like Narada or Sukadev Goswami, and thus is empowered by one's spiritual master as Narada was by Brahmaji, can not only deliver himself from the clutches of Maya or illusion, but can deliver the whole world by his pure and empowered devotional strength. The compassion of the autumnal rains falls on muddy reservoirs of water is very appropriate. During the rainy season, all the waters of the rivers become muddy. But in the month of July and August, the autumn season, when there is a slight rainfall, the muddy waters of the rivers all over the world become at once clear. By addition of some chemical, a small reservoir of water like that of a metropolitan waterworks tank can be cleared. But by such a tiny effort, it is not possible to clear up all the reservoirs of water like the rivers. A powerful, pure devotee of the Lord, however, can deliver not only his personal self, but also many others in his association. By sincere efforts to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, one realizes his constitutional relationship with the Lord in the transcendental humor of servitude, friendship, parental affection, or conjugal love, and by such self-realization, one becomes situated at once in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Not only were all the pure devotees like Narada self-realized souls, but they were engaged in the preaching work automatically by spiritual impetus, and thus they delivered many poor souls entangled in the material modes. They became so powerful because they sincerely followed the Bhagavatam principles by regular hearing and worshiping. By such actions, the accumulated material lusts, etc., became cleansed by the personal endeavor of the Lord within the heart. The Lord is always within the heart of the living being, but he becomes manifested by one's devotional service. The idea is that devotional service to the Lord is the only method of cleansing the heart for good. Whereas other methods may be superficially good for the time being, there is a risk of becoming muddy again due to agitation of the mind. Devotional service to the Lord with specific attention for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and always is the best recommended method for liberation from the clutches of illusion.
Thank you, Tisha. We can see in this purport, and there are other purports where Srila Prabhupada is actually talking about himself, because he is the pure devotee who has transformed the world. Absolutely transformed. Due to one person's association, one pure devotee, the whole world has become Krishna conscious. Not to the highest extent, but everyone is aware of Krishna. So that's Krishna conscious. Anyone have anything to say about this verse and purport? If not, Pritam, can you read next? And then
Yes.
Madhurya Leela.
Srimad Bhagavatam text 6. A pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who is not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna is not completely cleansed in the heart, but a perfectly cleansed person never quits the devotional service of the Lord. In discharging such devotional service as ordered by Brahmaji to Narada in the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes a representative of the Lord engaged in preaching work meets various so-called difficulties. This was exhibited by Lord Nityananda when he delivered the two fallen souls, Jagai and Madai. And similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified by the non-believers. But such difficulties are very gladly suffered by the devotees in preaching, because in such activities, although apparently very severe, the devotees of the Lord feel transcendental pleasure because the Lord is satisfied. Prahlad Maharaj suffered greatly, but still he never forgot the lotus feet of the Lord. This is because the pure devotee of the Lord is so purified in his heart that he cannot leave the shelter of Lord Krishna in any circumstances. There is no self-interest in such service. The progress of culturing knowledge by the Gyanis or the bodily gymnastics by the yogis are ultimately given up by the respective performers. But a devotee of the Lord cannot give up the service of the Lord, for he is ordered by his spiritual master. Pure devotees like Narada and Nityananda Prabhu take up the order of the spiritual master as the sustenance of life. They do not mind what becomes of the future of their lives. They take the matter very seriously, as the order comes from the higher authority, from the representative of the Lord, or from the Lord himself. A pure devotee of the Lord is exactly in a family tie with the Lord, and therefore he is undeterred in discharging his duty in a full affectionate tie with the Lord.
Thank you, Pritam. We can see also in this purport, at the end of this purport, Srila Prabhupada is also referring to himself. And there was one thing that stuck out to me, that if the Lord is satisfied, so that is the determining factor of any devotee. That whatever he is doing is to satisfy the Lord. I thought that was an important point. Does Pritam, can you say something more about this?
Well, I was thinking that because these pure devotees, they do not leave the lotus feet of the Lord under any circumstances, because they've already, I would say, they're already situated in the platform of prema, which is like much higher than nishtha, which is steadiness, and ruchi and asakti. That's why for them, they don't get, I would say, distracted by anything that happens around them. They're so focused on pleasing the Lord that nothing can disturb them from the service to the Lord. So that's what I was thinking of. I mean, for us, like neophyte devotees, are still trying to get some steadiness in our devotional service, and that's why we are so come under the influence of various disturbing elements in our life. But for pure devotees, it's not like that. They are truly fixed in their position.
Good, but we can understand also, not to discourage us, that it is a process, and to the extent that we are we are developing that attitude of satisfying Krishna, then we will become more purified. And we discussed it previously, that this human life is meant for purification. Our relationship with devotional service, hearing, chanting, serving, any of the 9 processes is for purification. And it's called sadhya and what is it? Sadhya and satya? Sadhya and satya. The service becomes the end, right? Just like when you're working to become purified, the chanting is a method, but it's also the goal. So that's the high standard of devotional service.
Another
Bhaji, did
point,
you something?
another point before we progress is that in these previous verses and this one, so Maharaj Pariksit is glorifying hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's requesting Sukadev Goswami to continue speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. This next verse we read, it changes the direction of the questions a little bit. But if we look at what Srila Prabhupada did, he took the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the mature fruit of the tree of Vedic wisdom. There's the Upanishads, there's the Puranas, there's the Mahabharata, there's the Ramayana, there's Vedanta Sutra. There's so many different histories. There's so much knowledge and wisdom. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of all that wisdom. And Srila Prabhupada spent years, he spent, 6 years, from 1959 until 1965 at the Radha Damodar Temple, translating just the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam into English. Then he got on a steamship, one person, with those books, and he went to New York City. And 11 years later, that was in 1965, in 1976, he rode down Fifth Avenue in New York City on the Rath Yatra cart, followed by thousands of devotees. And today, Hare Krishna Mahamantra is known all over the world. His translations of Srimad Bhagavatam are in over 60 languages all over the world. So what's being spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam now about the power of one pure devotee is actually being lived and realized by us who are on this earth at the same time that he did that.
Thank you. We are all very fortunate. That's for sure. Madhurya Leela, would you read next? And then Narayan.
287. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental spirit soul is different from the material body. Does he acquire the body accidentally or by some cause? Will you kindly explain this, for it is known to you? Prabhupada's purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, all questions that may arise in the mind of a serious student must be cleared by the statements of the authority. A person on the path of devotional service may inquire from his spiritual master about all the spiritual position of God and the living beings. From the Bhagavad Gita, as well as from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is known that qualitatively the Lord and the living being are one. The living being in the conditioned state of material existence is subjected to many transmigrations by continuous changing of the material body. But what are the causes of the material embodiment of the part and parcel of the Lord? Maharaj Parikshit inquires about this very important matter for the benefit of all classes of candidates on the path of self-realization and devotional service to the Lord. Indirectly, it is confirmed that the Supreme Being, the Lord, makes no such material changes of body. He is spiritually whole, with no difference between his body and his soul, unlike the conditioned soul. The liberated living beings who associate with the Lord in person are also exactly like the Lord. Only the conditioned souls awaiting liberation are subjected to change of bodies. How was the process first begun?
So in the second canto, there are not many lectures by Srila Prabhupada, but he did lecture on this one, and we included one of those lectures in the course materials. And Srila Prabhupada focused on this word hetu in the verse, Sanskrit. What is the cause? So Maharaj Parikshit is asking, what is the cause of the spirit accepting a material body? And here's Srila Prabhupada's lecture on that topic. I made it so that we can listen to his clip.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8.
Wait a second, Narayan. Are we supposed to be hearing Prabhupada's lecture?
Yeah, you
Pati?
can't hear it? Oh.
No. Okay, wait. Narayan, you're going to read. First, we're going to hear Prabhupada read.
Okay, sorry.
And-
I don't know why. I joined with my audio, but I haven't made it so this can hear it. So sorry.
I
you
can
can't
hear
read
it very, very low, softly.
Yeah.
Can anyone hear it? Nobody. I hear it very softly. It's not coming through. Okay, maybe we'll have, should we have Narayan read this?
Sure.
Narayan, go ahead.
Okay. So there is Hitu. Hitu means cause, not without cause. Nobody has taken birth in this material world without any cause. And according to the cause, the particular type of body is built up. Karmana Daivya Nitara. A big science there is. Unfortunately, There is no education for this science. Pariksit Maharaj inquired this question, that how the living entity got this body, material body, whether it's automatically, without any cause, or with cause. But with cause, if it will be explained, it is not. When the cause is there, just like if you infect some disease, automatically you will suffer from the disease. It will come automatically. That is automatically, but you're becoming infected, that is cause. So if you become cautious not to be infected, then the cause of lower birth or suffering you can avoid. Therefore, we have started this society. Society means that you will get here on cause of being elevated. Just like there are so many societies, equal class of men, birds of the same feather flock together. So here is a society. We will flock here. Who will come here? Because this society is meant for liberation. People are suffering so much on account of material condition of life. Nobody is happy. This is a fact. But because there are and in ignorance, there are accepting unhappiness as happiness. This is called Maya.
Hati, you want to speak on that a little? Unmute, please. Unmute.
Sure, I'll speak, but I think Madhurya Leela and Narayan also should have a chance.
Okay.
It's such an important inquiry that if people often don't research in their own dialect, inner dialect, and inner consciousness, what is the cause of the suffering that I'm undergoing? And therefore, oftentimes other people can see why another person is suffering very easily if they know them well. For example, children, when they get into teenage years and then early adult age, many of them go through the sufferings of becoming an adult, and the adults can see that you made these mistakes because now you're reaping the fruit of your previous actions, and that's why you're suffering. But the person, the child, sometimes it's hard for them to actually realize it. So what Prabhupada's saying here, especially, is that the material body, the spirit, which is an actually by constitutional free entity, attains a material body due to some cause. That will be explained later in the text. Now he gives the example of this society. By joining this society, then the cause for elevation will manifest in someone's life. I think that's like super beautiful, how he created from this Srimad Bhagavatam a society that is actually elevating human consciousness, elevating spirit souls all over the world. So it's the cause. He understood the cause, and therefore he knows the remedies.
Thank you. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything is based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. The society is based on the Bhagavatam. So that's how we get each other's association. That's how we get the association of great saintly people like Vidura and Pariksit and Yudhisthira. This is all from the Bhagavatam, and what to speak of Srila Prabhupada. Madhurya, did you have something to say about this?
Well, Guru Maharaj said everything nicely. I just want to say how fortunate we are that Prabhupada was so merciful, and that he, did what he did at the age of 70 and left Vrindavan and gave us eternal opportunity for eternal life.
Unbelievable. Thank you. Narayan, did you have something to say since you read this?
Not really, but it was well said by Guruji, explaining the cause and society and the desire to be liberated. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the whole point of our gathering together here. The cause is that we're not satisfied with material life. We want to know our nature, our eternal divine nature. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us this opportunity. Gopa, would you read next?
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 288.
You're muted too, Pati. Gopa, we can't hear you. Did you go off? Oh, I think Gopa she's muted. Gopa, you're muted. Okay, well, I'll contact her, but then let's go on with Aesop. Can you read?
Yep, I can read.
Okay.
Srimad Bhagavatam 288. Hare Krishna. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of common living entities? Purport. One should note how Maharaja Parikshit intelligently put questions before his spiritual master for scientific understanding of the transcendental body of the Lord. It has been described in many places before this that the Lord assumed a gigantic body like that of Karana Dakshai Vishnu, from whose hair pores innumerable universes have generated. The body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu is described as sprouting the lotus stem within which all of the planets of the universe remain, and at the top of the stem is the lotus flower on which Lord Brahma is born. In the creation of the material world, the Supreme Lord undoubtedly assumes a gigantic body, and living entities also get bodies, big or small, according to necessity. For example, an elephant gets a gigantic body according to its needs, and so also an ant gets its body according to its needs. Similarly, if the personality of Godhead assumes a gigantic body to accommodate the universes or the planets of a particular universe, there is no difference in the principle of assuming or accepting a particular type of body in terms of necessity. A living being and the Lord cannot be distinguished simply by the difference in the magnitude of the body. So the answer depends on the specific significance of the body of the Lord, as distinguished from the body of the common living being.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's very significant. The acceptance of a particular body out of necessity. So we see that the Lord has so many incarnations and so many different methods of demonstrating his activities. And this is based on necessity. The necessity of what's happening in the world, in the universe. For me, it was a very big realization to get that, have that, that Srila Prabhupada said that. Manvatar, could you read now? And then Sham Govinda. You have to unmute.
Brahma was not born of a material source, but of the lotus flower coming out of the navel abdomen of the Lord. Is the creator of all those who are materially born. Of course, by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to see the form of the Lord. The first living creature, Brahma, is called Aja, because he did not take his birth from the womb of a mother materially born. He was directly born from the bodily expansion of the lotus flower of the Lord. Thus, it was not readily understandable whether the body of the Lord and that of Brahma are of the same quality or different. This must also be clearly understood. One thing is, however, certain. Brahma was completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord because after his birth, he could create living beings by the Lord's grace only, and he could see the form of the Lord. Whether the form seen by Brahma is of the same quality as that of Brahma is a bewildering question, and Maharaj Pariksit wanted to get clear answers from Srila Sukadeva Goswami.
Thank you, Manvantara. Actually, I was, yes, go on, Donnie.
Well, I wanted to ask a question because we just read a couple of verses ago. I was trying to find it in the purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport, where he likened a pure devotee, obviously in the same quality with Krishna to God, you know, and how Srila Prabhupada is an example of that, of course, and having the full characteristics. And then Prabhu just read that, you know, the difference between bodies doesn't really tell you, you know, who Krishna is. You know, like if you're looking at a giant compared to a midget, to use a lame word, you can't tell, you know, if that person is God or not. You know what I mean? It depends on what they do, the performance, the function. So the Maharaj Parikit's question, you know, we can go deeper and talk about Jiva Tattva versus, you know, Krishna. But I kind of lost my train of thought. But I was thinking how the body doesn't matter, but you can also tell through the body that, you know, the person is sanctioned by Krishna.
Yeah, that is true. There are symptoms. There are symptoms. The bodies do matter because in the human body, you can realize God. That matters. That matters. A cat or a dog can make advancement with prasadam, but a human body can actually engage. Someone who is gifted with a human body can be engaged in devotional service. So that matters. And the good thing is that these are questions. These are questions being presented by Maharaj Pariksit to Sukadeva Goswami. And then further along, the next chapter even, we will get the answers or some of the answers. But I have thought of the same thing, and the necessity, I spoke about it before, how according to, for the conditioned soul, we get different bodies to fulfill our different desires. And if we're cultivating some higher consciousness, then we will get a body where our future might be to become a devotee or to seek spiritual knowledge. And if we desire things that are not elevated, then we will get a body that is suited to that according to our karma. For Krishna, he is not subjected to the reaction and action of the material world. So he takes different forms that are necessary at the time, and they're all Krishna. They're all Krishna. Someone else have something to, does that come close to satisfactory for you, Manvantara? Okay, thanks.
Actually, I think what we can do is zero in on the question. I'm going to put it up again. He's saying, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the lotus stem sprouted, is possessed of a gigantic body according to his own caliber and measurement, then what is the specific difference between the body of the Lord and those of the common living entities? And the example being given in the purport is the elephant gets its body according to its needs, and the ant gets its body according to its needs. What is the difference of the Lord's body if he's simply acquiring a body to accommodate the universe? It's the same principle. So he wants to know from Sukadeva Goswami, what's the unique feature of the Lord distinct from this particular aspect of getting a body?
Yeah, and probably will go on to, he probably refers to this constantly, that there is a difference between our body and the Lord's body, not
Yeah.
only in quantity, enormity, but the Lord is not subjected to the modes of material nature. His body is completely spiritual. Our bodies at this point are material. Okay, so I think we'll go on with Sham Govinda.
Text 9. Brahma, who was not born of a material source, but of the lotus flower coming out of the navel abdomen of the Lord, is the creator of all those who are materially born. Of course, by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to see the form of the Lord. Purport. The first living creature, Brahma. Oh, we read this before.
Did we? Oh no. Well, we better know it by now then.
10. Please also explain the personality of Godhead, who lies in every heart as the supersoul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. Purport. Undoubtedly, the form of the Lord who was seen by Brahma must be transcendental. Otherwise, how could he simply look upon the creative energy without being touched? It is understood also that the same Purusha lies in the heart of every living entity. This also requires proper explanation.
Read the next one.
11 and 12. O learned Brahmana, it was formerly explained that all the planets of the universe with their respective governors are situated in the different parts of the gigantic body of the Virat Purusha. I have also heard that the different planetary systems are supposed to be in the gigantic body of the Virat Purusha. But what is their actual position? Will you please explain that? Also, please explain the duration of time between creation and annihilation, and that of our other subsidiary creations, as well as the nature of time indicated by the sound of past, present, and future. Also, please explain the duration and measurement of life of the different living beings known as the demigods, the human beings, etc., in different planets of the universe.
Okay, let's go on with just read those two.
13. O purest of the Brahmanas, please also explain the cause of the different durations of time, both short and long, as well as the beginning of time following the course of action. 14. Then again, kindly describe how the proportionate accumulation of the reactions resulting from the different modes of material nature act upon the desiring living being, promoting or degrading him among the different species of life, beginning from the demigods down to the most insignificant creatures.
Now, can you imagine someone at the time of death asking such questions? So we're going to get a lot of answers. That's the point. It's okay that we are a little bewildered by this now, but these are the things that we will be studying in the future of the Bhagavatam. Hati, did you have something to say?
Just in order for other people to read now, there's a purport to these.
Okay,
Somebody
so we'll go on with Faye. Can you read next, please?
Purport: the actions and reactions of all work in the material modes of nature, either in the minute form or in the gigantic form, are accumulated, and thus the result of such accumulated actions and reactions of karma or work become manifested in the same proportion. How such actions and reactions take place, what the different procedures are, and in what proportion they act, are all subject matters of Maharaja Parikshit's inquiries from the great Brahmana Sukadeva Goswami. Life in the higher planets, known as the abodes of the denizens of heaven, is obtained not by the strength of the spacecraft, as is now being contemplated by the inexperienced scientist, but by works done in the mode of goodness. even on the very planet where we are now living, there are restrictions upon the entrance of foreigners into a country where the citizens are more prosperous. For example, the American government has many restrictions for the entrance of foreigners from less prosperous countries. The reason is that the Americans do not wish to share their prosperity with any foreigner who has not qualified himself as a citizen of America. Similarly, the same mentality is prevailing in every other planet where there are more intelligent living beings residing. The higher planetary living conditions are all in the mode of goodness, and anyone desiring to enter the higher planets like the Moon, Sun, and Venus must qualify thoroughly by activity in complete goodness. Maharaj Parikshit's inquiries are on the basis of proportionate actions of goodness, which qualify one in this planet to be promoted to the highest regions of the universe. Persons addicted to the habits of passion and ignorance have no chance of entering the higher planetary systems simply by an electronic mechanism. Unmixed devotional service is transcendental and is called para bhakti. It alone can promote a person to the transcendental kingdom of God. Such a transcendental kingdom is not a myth, but is as factual as the moon. One must have transcendental qualities to understand the kingdom of God and God Himself.
Thank you. That, could you say one, I think we're moving along here, but say something, Faye, about this qualification, how sometimes we think that qualification is not a bad thing, but we see it's in God, it is not, is exclusive. And that others would be excluded. But on a higher platform, everyone is included in God's plan. But there are qualifications for different elevated knowledge, for people to be elevated. And could you say something about that? Because that might be a confusing thing. But of course, we see how Prabhupada solves it with Bhakti Yoga. Say something about that, Faye.
Whether we consider the modes of ignorance and passion or goodness, yes, they're very, very different. If we are pretending to be qualified and we're really in the mode of ignorance, we're just sprouting our own little phantasmagoria here. But if we are truly qualified in the mode of goodness, then we've got to start using that. We've got to start working towards a transcendental goal. And that goal is devotional service, improving upon devotional service, and going back to Godhead. Now, could I understand, or anyone else understand, those transcendental qualities if we were totally in the muck and mud of complete ignorance and darkness and nescience? We can't by ourselves. We can only do that with the mercy of a pure devotee.
Thank you. That's beautiful. That sums it up pretty much. Gopa, could you read now? And then after Gopa, Ian. Are you there, Gopaji? She said she was here. I still can't hear her. Okay, we'll move to Ian now, and I'll contact Gopa again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm having phone issues. I'm having touch phone issues. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Srimad Bhagavatam 2, 8:15. O best of the Brahmanas, please also describe how the creation of the globes throughout the universe, the four directions of the heavens, the sky, the planets, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, the seas, and the islands, as well as their different kinds of inhabitants, takes place. Oh my. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The inhabitants of different varieties of land, etc., are differently situated, and not all of them are equal in all respects. The inhabitants of the land are different from the inhabitants of the water or the sky. And similarly, the inhabitants of the different planets and stars in the sky are also different from one another. By the laws of the Lord, no place is vacant, but the creatures of one particular place are different from those of other places. Even in human society, the inhabitants of the jungles or the deserts are different from those in the cities and villages. They are so made accordingly to different qualities of modes of nature. Such adjustment by the laws of nature is not blind. There is a great plan behind the arrangement. Maharaj Parikshit requests the great sage Sukadev Goswami to explain all these authoritatively in accordance with proper understanding.
My goodness.
My
Okay.
goodness.
That's pretty all encompassing there.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Can
Thank
hardly
you.
hear what he's going to say.
Yeah, right. Okay, we're waiting. Okay, so we have Ian and then Akadasi. So whatever's left, we can, I think there's another purport after this one. Ian, can you read, please?
Okay, Hare Krishna. Text 16. Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life. Purport. Maharaj Parikshit is not satisfied with only material knowledge. He is inquisitive about the character and activities of the great souls, the devotees of the Lord. The glories of the Lord and the glories of his devotees combined together comprise the complete knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna showed his mother the complete universal creation within his mouth, while she, completely charmed by her son, wanted to look inside the mouth of the Lord just to see how much earth the child had eaten. By the grace of the Lord, the devotees are able to see everything in the universe within the mouth of the Lord. The very idea of the scientific divisions of four classes of human society and four orders of life is also inquired about herewith on the basis of individual personal quality. The four divisions are exactly like the four divisions of one's personal body. The parts and parcels of the body are non different from the body, but by themselves, they are only parts. That is the significance of the old scientific system of four castes and four social orders. The value of such scientific division of human society can be ascertained only in terms of the proportionate development of devotional service to the Lord. Any person employed in devotional service, including the president, is a part and parcel of the entire government. Everyone is a government servant, but no one is the government himself. That is the position of all living entities in the government of the Supreme Lord. No one can artificially claim the supreme position of the Lord, but everyone is meant to serve the purpose of the Supreme Lord.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. That's pretty profound also. You know, I think that what's being stressed here a lot is Prabhupada, we saw previously, he's talking about impersonalism. And this is going deeper into what impersonalism actually is, because we all want to be equal. We think that's the highest platform, is that everything is equal and we're all the same. And what do you know? If we're all the same, there's no individuality. We are different. We all have our different relationship with Krishna and personalities and feelings, and And that we can't neglect that. That's a disservice to ourselves and to others. So it's a, and also another part of this purport, to the extent that one is surrendered unto Krishna, he will understand this philosophy. So it's all proportionate. That word proportionate is also very significant. So I think we're almost finished now. We have an open discussion. So Kadasi, would you like to read?
2:8:17. Please explain all the different ages and the duration of the creation, and also the duration of such ages. Also, tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Purport. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, although non-different from him, are emanations from the Supreme. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the great and learned sage Shukadev Goswami about the different activities of such incarnations, so that the incarnation of the Lord might be confirmed by his activities in the authoritative scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit was not to be carried away by the sentiments of the common man to accept an incarnation of the Lord very cheaply. Instead, he wished to accept the incarnation of the Lord by symptoms mentioned in the Vedic literatures and confirmed by an acharya like Shukadev Goswami. The Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. The specific activities of the Lord are mentioned, and one should know that the activities of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical due to being on the absolute plane. Thus, to hear the activities of the Lord means to associate with the Lord directly. And association with the Lord directly means purification from material contamination. We have already discussed this point in the previous volume.
Okay. Thank you, Kadasi. We see here again, it is described that there is a difference between the soul and the super soul, between Krishna and the living entity. And that has to be understood. Would you like to say something about that, Kadasi ji?
No, I think just that how merciful Krishna is, that he appears, regularly on this planet and all over, just to give us his to allow us to see his pastimes and to have discussion about them and associate with each other like that. Yeah, that's all.
That's exactly right on. So would anybody like to add something to this discussion? My husband and I were appreciating so much this review of the second canto, because he was saying this morning that the second canto has kind of a bad rap. I don't know. That was it. But it is the foundation of the Bhagavatam. It is so wonderful. Everything that is being said is profound and essential for us to continue on through the Bhagavatam.
One point that I really liked that kind of came out as we were doing the reading was I was wondering why Srila Prabhupada gave this example of Mother Yasoda seeing the universe in Krishna's mouth. Then I was looking, and actually what Parikshit is asking is, he said, you've described this Virat Purusha, and you said that all the planets are within the lotus stem coming from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, but what is their actual position? In other words, which one is closer, which one's further away, how far apart are they? He also asked, what are the different ages and what are the time durations of those ages? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was expressing that the devotee of the Lord, the devotee of the spiritual master, can ask any question regarding these things, and the spiritual master should have that knowledge. That's pretty fascinating questions to have answers to.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question or yes, Karna, unmute yourself. You're still not unmuted. Okay, we're waiting for you. Can we unmute her? Hattie?
No.
Oh, there you go. Oh no, Vaishnava.
We cannot unmute her.
Okay, I don't know. Oh, maybe she's getting help. Okay.
Please
Okay, now I'm
Okay.
unmuted.
Okay.
Okay, well, I just wanted to mention that I'm so appreciative of Dhruva Maharaj for pointing out the trouble Prabhupada took to translate Bhagavatam and the sensation it created throughout the world, because I never tire of hearing Prabhupada's glories. And the way you said it, just brought a tear to my eye. And society speaks about the power of one. And Prabhupada set the standard for the power of one.
Right.
So thanks for reminding us of that.
Thank you.
Oh, one thing of it, keep your one. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
One thing that you might point out is that photo behind you is Prabhupada coming down the escalator, and you're in that photo.
Well, you can't really see it in here.
She's
Prabhupada.
here.
Wait, I'll get out of the way. Is that little white sari back there?
Jai, Haribo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're just right where you belong. In Prabhupada's arms, right there. That's what I see. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone else have something to say? Tisha?
I just wanted to ask a question.
Oh, great. We have Manvantara.
The Sri Brahma Samahita book that that was shown to us last Zoom. I can't find that cover at Krishna.com or Amazon, and I'm curious to know because there's other books entitled Sri Brahma Samahita. So in preparation for the upcoming classes in June, I wanted to make sure I have the proper book. So the question is, where can I find the book with that cover, or does any book entitled Sri Brahma Samahita is sufficient?
Wow, what a great question. The first publication of that book, the translation was actually by one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote the introduction to the book, which verified he had checked the book out, and he verified that it was an excellent reference. So that book was originally published by the Gaudiya Math. In the 1970s, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust got the rights to also publish that book. And when the editors asked Srila Prabhupada about some of the English, he explained that because my Guru Maharaj has already accepted everything in this book, not one word, not one comma, not one edit should be made. So practically speaking, any book that you get, doesn't matter the cover, if it's published by the BBT or by the Gaudiya Math, it will be the same text.
It's also on Database if you have Database.
And it's also on Vedabase.com or .net, whichever one it is. .com, I think now.
Okay. Anyone else have any question? Everyone's totally self-realized now. Great. Let's go back to Godhead. Oh, we'll be doing the same thing, the spiritual world, glorifying Krishna. And we'll be amazed to know that the Srimad Bhagavatam is even more massive. We have this is enough for us, that's for sure. Anyone else?
I just want to say, Hare Krishna, everybody. I just want to say, for me, I'm so thankful, I guess, really thankful and appreciative for your association, that I even am able to be with you all in this way. This has been a really hard week for me because the class last week left me a little bit confused about my personal relationship with Krishna, and trying to just understand, like, what is Krishna? When I look at the moon, I try to think that's Krishna's eyes or the sunshine or the grass. And I try to always keep myself associated with things of what is Krishna. But after last week's class, I'm a little confused, I guess, about
Okay.
what really is Krishna. And I am banging my head up against the wall, but somehow this week I just realized I have all the tools I need to get the answers because I have all of you with this class. And I feel like I have a place to go to ask my questions if I could only formulate them properly. And so I'm so very thankful and appreciative for all of you because I wasn't here for Prabhupada. I never had that association, but my association is with all of you. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to add something that we are very fortunate because we have Prabhupada's association. We do. We all do. Prabhupada knew that what he was saying was essential for the universe, okay? Everyone. And he wrote them down in these books. These books are the treasure. These books are direct association with Srila Prabhupada's ecstasies. And you can develop a very deep relationship, just like we have a relationship with Sukadeva Goswami or Rupa Goswami or Lord Chaitanya or any of Lord Chaitanya's associates through these transcendental books that we have. You can associate with Srila Prabhupada directly by, what was the verse? Seriously absorbing yourself in his purports. And also chanting the holy name. And it's a process. We have to be a little patient. But good that you're knocking your head against the wall. That's actually, you want to knock your head against the wall because this is vital information. This is what we have to dedicate our lives to. Everything else is going and coming. That nothing is dependent on us. This is dependent on our own surrender and absorption. So thank you. And thank you for being part of this. Okay, well, if no one else has anything to say, everyone chant Hare Krishna, read the Bhagavatam, directly associate with Krishna, and our lives are already sublime. Even though sometimes
Thank
might
you.
not feel that way.
Thank you all.
Hare Krishna, glories to
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. Vanchkalpa tubhyascha, kripa sindhubhyascha, patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Thank you all for your divine association. Hare Krishna.
Done.